11, 9, 12, 14. The Christian Greek scriptures explain that there will be a specific future period, a day, when mankind, both the living and those who died in the past, will individually be judged. 2t4. 1, 2. Identity of the judges. In the Hebrew scriptures, Jehovah is identified as the judge of all the earth. G 18. 25. Similarly, in the Christian Greek scriptures he is called the judge of all. Job 12. 23. He has, though, deputized his son to do judging for him. Job 5. 22. The Bible speaks of Jesus as appointed, decreed, and destined to do judging. Act 10. 42. 17. 31. 2t4. 1. That Jesus is thus authorized by God resolves any seeming contradiction between the text that says that individuals will stand before the judgment seat of God and the verse that says they will be made manifest before the judgment seat of the Christ. Row 14. 10. 2co5. 10. Jesus also told his apostles that when he would sit down on his throne in the recreation, they would sit upon 12 thrones to do judging. Mount 19. 28. Luke 22. 28-30. Paul indicated that Christians who had been called to be holy ones will judge the world. 1 Co 1. 2. 6. 2. Also, the Apostle John saw in vision the time when some received power of judging. Read 20. For in view of the above texts, this evidently includes the apostles and the other holy ones. Such a conclusion is borne out by the remainder of the verse, which speaks of those who rule with Christ for the millennium. These then will be royal judges with Jesus. The fine quality of the judging that will take place on Judgment Day is assured, for Jehovah's judgments are true and righteous. O text oe acute miritra longo, Judgments 138. Judgment seat. Usually a raised outdoor platform, approached by steps, from which seated officials could address the crowds and announce their decisions. Mount 27. 19. Joe 19. 13. Act 12. 21. 25. 6, 10, 17. What is thought by some to have been the judgment seat called the Bema at Corinth, where Paul appeared before Gallio, was built of white and blue marble. Act 18. 1, 12, 16, 17. Alongside it were 2 waiting rooms with mosaic floors and marble benches. Jehovah God has committed all judging to his Son Joe 5. 22, 27, and therefore all must appear before the judgment seat of Christ. 2 Co 5. 10. This is also rightly called the judgment seat of God in that Jehovah is the originator of the arrangement and judges by means of his Son. Row 14. 10. Judicial decisions. Judgment rendered by one as in authority. 2 8. 15. 1 Chi 3. 16-28. 10. 9. 2 Chi 25. 6. 2 Ch 19. 8-10. Jehovah God, as judge, statute giver, and king is 33. 22. Gave to the nation of Israel an extensive code of laws. His decisions on matters of law furnished guidelines for deciding matters involving individuals in the nation's internal and external affairs. See Court, Judicial. Law. Legal case. Many of these judicial decisions were given to the nation of Israel at Mount Sinai. NE 9. 13. But at times certain situations called for a special judicial decision. For example, when Manasseh Zelopad was survived by daughters only, a question arose regarding whether they should receive an inheritance. Jehovah then rendered a decision that covered the case and afterwards served as a statute for handling like situations. New 27. 1-11. 36. 1-12. See also the 24. 10-16. Similarly, a judicial decision made by David about the distribution of spoils of war set a legal precedent. 1-30. 23-25. By designating certain common but extremely harmful acts as capital offenses, the divinely given judicial decisions stood out as unique among the laws of contemporary nations. Surrounding peoples engaged in bestiality, sodomy, incest, and other degraded practices that were injurious to mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. Law 18. 6-30. 20. 10-23 Therefore, Jehovah's judicial decisions, if obeyed, would have elevated the nation of Israel. With Jehovah's blessing, Israel's strict adherence to his commands would have resulted in observable benefits, causing other nations to say, "This great nation is undoubtedly a wise and understanding people." The 4-6 Since these were really a blessing to Israel. The 25. 18, 19. The 1. 7. 12-15. 30. 16. It is not surprising that the psalmist prayed that he might be taught Jehovah's judicial decisions. PS 119. 108 He so much appreciated them that he praised Jehovah for his judicial decisions 7 times a day. PS 119. 164, even getting up at midnight to thank God for them. PS 119. 62. However, although good, righteous, and holy, the judicial decisions of the law merely served as a tutor leading to Christ. That law covenant was replaced by the new covenant. Row 7. 12. 3. 24. Hab 8. 7-13 So it is to be expected that obedience to the commands, or judicial decisions, associated with the new covenant would result in far grander blessings than those natural Israel experienced under the law. Joe 13. 34, 35. 1 Co 6. 9-11. 1 P1. 14, 15, 22, 23. 2. 9, 10. 1 Joe 5. 3. Information in Revelation 20. 12, 13. Individuals are seen standing before the throne. The dead are mentioned, and so is the fact that death and Hades gave up those dead in them. Such ones are judged. Time for Judgment Day. In John 12. 48 Christ linked the judging of persons with the last day. Revelation 11. 17, 18 locates the judging of the dead as occurring after God takes his great power and begins ruling in a special way as king. Additional light on the matter comes from the sequence of events recorded in Revelation chapters 19 and 20. There one reads of a war in which the King of Kings kills the kings of the earth. O textoi acute miritra longo, jurisdictional district 139 Judith feminine form of Judi. A wife of Esau, daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and a constant source of bitterness to Isaac and Rebekah. GE 26. 34. 35 She is perhaps the same as Oholibamah at Genesis 36. 2. Julia Middle. A member of the congregation at Rome to whom Paul sent greetings. Row 16. 15 Julia may have been the wife or sister of Philologus. Julius Middle. Us. A Roman army officer or centurion of the band of Augustus in whose custody Paul traveled to Rome. Act 27. 1. See army officer. Augustus, band of. From the beginning of the voyage, Julius apparently appreciated that Paul was not an ordinary prisoner and showed him kindness, for example, letting him go ashore to visit friends at Sidon. However, when Paul later suggested that for the time being their continuing on would be perilous, Julius listened to the contrary opinion of the pilot and the shipowner. Later Julius' soldiers prevented the escape of the sailors, in keeping with Paul's words. Unless these men remain in the boat, you cannot be saved. When shipwreck occurred, Julius, by not letting the soldiers kill the prisoners, saved Paul's life. Act 27. 1-44. Junius Juani Middle. As a recipient of special greetings in Paul's letter to the Romans 16. 7. Andronicus and Junius were his relatives. While the Greek word used here can mean fellow countrymen, the primary meaning is blood relative of the same generation. The two were Paul's fellow captives, possibly having been in prison with him somewhere. Paul calls them both men of note among the apostles, perhaps recalling their fine reputation with the apostles. they were in union with Christ longer than Paul himself was, indicating early discipleship. Juniper. 1. Heb. Beraush. The Hebrew term for this tree has been given various meanings, such as fir, cypress. However, some lexicographers recommend the juniper tree on good basis. See Lexicon in Veteris Testamenti Libros, by L. Kuhler and W. Baumgartner, Leiden, 1958, p. 148. The Interpreter's Dictionary of the Bible, edited by J. A. Buttrick, 1962, Volume 2, p. 293. Since the tree was imported from Lebanon by King Solomon 1 Chi 5. 8-10. 9. 11. 2ch2. 8. It may be identified with the Juniper excelsa, a tall, robust evergreen growing up to 20 meters, 66 feet in height, with spreading branches, small scale-like leaves, and dark, small, globular fruit. It is highly fragrant. The timber from this juniper tree is greatly valued for its durability. The Juniper excelsa is a native of Lebanon and is regularly associated with that land, being included with other trees as the glory of Lebanon. 2 Chi 19. 23. Isla 14. 8. 37. 24. 60. 13. The psalmist spoke of the juniper trees as the house, or nesting place, of storks. PS 104. 17. Juniper wood was used extensively in the temple built by Solomon. 2ch3. 5. The leaves of the main doors were made of juniper wood 1 Chi 6. 34, and the floor was overlaid with it. 1 Chi 6. 15. It is elsewhere spoken of as being used for Ra's Tizkar 1. 17. Planking for ships as 27. 5. Spear shafts Na 2. 3. And musical instruments 2 6. 5. As a luxuriant tree, it is used in the restoration prophecies to describe the beauty and fruitful fertility to be brought to the land of God's people. Isla 41. 19. 55. 13. 60. 13. 2. Heb. Ero middle dot or a middle dot r. The Arabic word aids in identifying this tree as probably the Juniper asfuinisha, a shrub-like tree to be found in the Sinai region and also in the area of the Desert of Edom. The root word in the Hebrew from which the tree's name is drawn has the idea of nakedness or being stripped, compare PS 102. 17, and this dwarf juniper is correspondingly described as of rather gloomy appearance, growing in rocky parts of the desert and on crags. It is fittingly used in the book of Jeremiah when comparing the man whose heart turns away from Jehovah with a solitary tree r in the Otextoi acute Muritra Longo, Jashab. He's 140 accord sons of the jurisdictional district. As 2. 1. Ne7. 6 or, this designation may allude to there being inhabitants of the Medo-Persian jurisdictional district of Judah. Ne1. 3. At least during the reign of Ahasuerus-Xerxes I, the Medo-Persian Empire consisted of 127 jurisdictional districts, from India to Ethiopia. Jews were scattered throughout this vast realm. As 1. 1. 3. 8. 4. 3. 8. 17. 9. 2. 30. The land of Judah, with its own governor and lesser administrative heads, was itself one of the 127 jurisdictional districts. Ne1. 3. 11. 3. Seemingly, however, Judah was part of a still larger political division administered by a higher governmental official. Apparently this official directed any serious complaints concerning the districts under his jurisdiction to the king and then waited for royal authorization to act. Also, lesser officials could request that the activities of a particular jurisdictional district be investigated. As 4. 8-23. 5. 3-17. When authorized by the king, jurisdictional districts could receive money from the royal treasury, and the royal decrees were sent by means of couriers to the various parts of the empire. As 6. 6-12. As 1. 22. 3. 12-15. 8. 10-14. Therefore, all the inhabitants of the jurisdictional districts were familiar with the laws and decrees of the central government. Compares 4. 11. The system of jurisdictional districts existing in nations of antiquity often made the lot of the subject peoples more difficult. This fact is acknowledged by the wise writer of Ecclesiastes 5. 8. See province. Joshab, he's Joshab, he said. One of Zerubbabel's sons. 1 Ch 3. 19, 20. Justice. The maintenance or administration of what is right in a fair and impartial way, and according to a standard. The Hebrew word mishmiddle.pat, often translated justice or judgment NWRS, may also convey the idea of a particular plan X26. 30, custom GE40. 13, rule 2 Ch 4. 20, or regular procedural 5. 10 for doing things. The two Hebrew words most frequently translated justice in the King James Version tzedek and tzedamiddle are usually rendered righteousness in the New World Translation. G18. 19. Job 8. 3. Whereas justice has legal associations, basically there is no distinction between justice and righteousness. Compare Am 5. 24. One Greek word translated in harmony with justice NW designates something that is just KJRS or deserved. Row 3. 8. Heb 2. Two judgment and vengeance are the primary meanings of two other Greek words sometimes rendered justice. Mount 12. 20, NW, RS. Lu 18. 7, NW. The Supreme Judge and Statute Giver is a 33. 22, Jehovah God, is a lover of righteousness and justice. PS 33. 5 Justice and abundance of righteousness he will not belittle. Job 37. 23 This guarantees that he will never abandon his loyal ones. PS 37. 28 Jehovah shows no partiality in dealing with his creatures, but he accepts and bestows his blessing upon all those fearing him and practicing righteousness. Act 10. 34, 35 Individuals and nations are punished or rewarded according to their acts. Row 2. 3-11. F6. 7-9. Col 3. 22. 4. 1 Jehovah's justice is also balanced with mercy, thus providing opportunity for men and nations to turn from their wicked ways, and thereby escape the execution of his adverse judgments. Jer 18. 7-10. S 33. 14-16. See Declarations. Jehovah's wisdom is far superior to that of imperfect humans, and man, not God, must learn the path of justice. Issa 40. 14 Thus man is in no position to judge God's acts as just or unjust, but must learn to conform his thinking to the standard of justice that Jehovah has revealed in his word. Said God to the Israelites, As for my ways, are they not adjusted right, O house of Israel? Are not the ways of you people the ones that are not adjusted right? As 18. 29 Also, Jehovah's creatorship rules out all basis for questioning the rightness of Otex to acute Niritra Longo, Kadesh 141 Sus as king of God's kingdom, and by all those serving in administrative capacities under him, his loyal subjects will find pleasure in submitting themselves to his righteous rule. Issa 9. 6, 7. 32. 1, 16-18. 42. 1-4. Mount 12. 18-21. Joe 5. 30. Compare PR 29. 2. Concerning the administration of justice and the principles involved, see Court, Judicial. Law. Legal case. Justices. Persons responsible for deciding legal cases. At Job 31. 11. 28 The phrase for attention by the justices is used in an adjective sense to describe errors calling for judgment. Thus in these verses an American translation reads a heinous sin verses 11 and a heinous crime verses 28, instead of an error for attention by the justices. The error under consideration in verse 11 is adultery vs 9:10, a crime that in Job's time may have been judged by the older men at the city gate. Compare Job 29:7. However, the error of verse 28 involves materialism and secret idolatry vs 24-27, wrongs of mind and heart that cannot be established at the mouth of witnesses. Therefore, no human justices could determine guilt. Job, though, apparently recognized that God could judge such wrongs and that they were serious enough to warrant his judgment. Justification. See declare righteous. Justice from Lat. Meaning just. Upright. Righteous. 1. The surname of Joseph Barsabbas. Justus and Matthias were the two candidates suggested as possible replacements for Judas Iscariot as an apostle. The lot fell to Matthias. Even though Justus was not chosen, his being considered for the office shows he was a mature disciple of Jesus Christ. Act 1. 23-26. 2. A Corinthian believer whose home adjoined the synagogue. Because of Jewish opposition, Paul transferred to the house of Titius Justus, that is, he continued his preaching there. His residence remained with Aquila and Priscilla. Act 18. 1-7. 3. A Jewish fellow worker of the Apostle Paul. Justus, also called Jesus, was one of those who strengthened Paul during his first imprisonment in Rome and who sent along his greetings to the Colossians. Col 4. 10-11. Jutta probably, extended or, stretched out place. A site in the mountainous region of Judah given to the sons of Aaron as a priestly city. Jos 15. 20, 48, 55. 21. 13, 16 Jutta is identified with modern Yatta, situated on a ridge about 10 kilometers 6 miles of Hebron. Kabzeti middle. God has collected. A city in the southern part of Judah. Jos 15. 21 It is tentatively identified with But Horvat about 10 kilometers 6 miles of Beersheba. The Hebrew text of 2 Samuel 23. 20 and 1 Chronicles 11. 22 has been variously understood to mean that Kabzeel was 1 the home of the distinguished warrior Benaiah, 2 the home of one of his progenitors or the place where such a one performed notable deeds, or 3 the scene for Benaiah's many deeds. Compares. KJ. JB. La. NW. RS. An alternate form, Jekabzeel, appears at Nehemiah 11. 25 in a listing of post-exilic settlements in Judah. Kadesh Holy Place, Kadesh Barnea Kadesh Barani Middle. A holy place of Barnea. An Israelite wilderness encampment situated at the extremity of Edomite territory near the way to Shur, perhaps the modern Dar el-Shur extending from Hebron to Egypt. GE 16. 7, 14. New 20. 14-16 Heb. Our city at New 20. The 16th of May simply mean encampment. Compare New 13. 19. Apparently 11 days traveled distance by way of Mount Seir separated Kadesh Barnea from Horeb. De 1. 2. Kadesh is spoken of as being located in both the wilderness of Paran and the wilderness of Zin. Possibly Zin and Paran were adjoining wildernesses that met at Kadesh, and therefore, the site could be referred to as lying in either one. Or, the wilderness of Zin may have been part of the larger wilderness of Paran. New 13. 26. 20. 1 In Abraham's time the place was known both as Mishpat and as Kadesh. GE 14. 7. 20. 1 It is perhaps so textually acute Miritra longo, Cade Meal 142 oasis of grass, shrubs, and trees. There are also 2 other springs in the vicinity, Ain al-Qudirad and Ain al-Kezimeh. To date the largest of the 3 springs is Ain al-Qudirad, and for this reason some favor identifying it with Kadesh Barnea. However, Ankdiz is the most easterly spring.